so many different types of shows are coming to Albuquerque finally, especially now with Revel happening, that like I feel like more opening slots, more entry slots are going to happen for local music. Like potentially though. And that is a question that I had for you from because you do have that unique outlook on it. Let's start broad. How, not in a negative sense, but just how difficult can it get working with different booking companies, different like management companies, that these guys that not own the bands, but like do their bookings, right? Do their tourings for them, right? When you're managing all these different, and it's a team of you guys. So when all you guys are managing these different types of bands, managing genres and dates and all this stuff, like how difficult can it get before you even start to have local bands be a part of the conversation? Just getting all these guys scheduled out. Like, yeah, obviously the same team is like you're booking for Launchpad, but like the same management. Joe, he is over all these other ones. Are you guys like communicating regularly with Revel and Isleta? Are you guys all trying to work together? Like, what is all of that like? What are those discussions like?
Well, okay. So as far as like working with other venues, I think there's communication between all of us. And I think that also we work with a lot on the level of like the theater shows, right? Sunshine Theater, El Rey, Revel, those big shows. There are producers in town, production companies in town who do those big shows. And those companies are like Lensic 360 is one. Like
I've heard the name.
Yeah. So they're like behind like Brittany Howard is coming in April, right? And Lensic 360, they book that. They book that festival that happens in Albuquerque in like August or something like that. They book a whole bunch of stuff. There's Amp Concerts. There's Two Zany Productions, which does a bunch of the hip hop stuff in town. Viva ABQ. So there's all these like different entities that are like production entities.
And they're separate from the venues.
And they're separate from the venues, right? And so we work with all of these like different entities who basically those entities are the ones who are working with the booking agent for the band or the management for the band and being like, oh, well, we'll offer you a guarantee of $3,000 and this much hospitality if you come and play a show. And they deal with all of that. And then they will go into the venues and they basically are renting the venues. For the stuff that's at theater level, they're basically renting the venues.
Is Launchpad considered a theater venue?
No, not exactly, but we will do. No. Size-wise, Launchpad's not a theater venue. It's a rock club.
Rock club, okay.
Yeah. So the theater level venues are like usually working with outside promoters who have like a whole team that's focused on promoting a show and getting these tickets sold and filling the place. Okay,
so maybe that answers the question I was going to ask. So is that one of the main like essential reasons why these production companies are in existence? Because it would, again, novice next to actually zero. All the information you have given and are about to give me is all the information I have when it comes to booking bands and like helping with tours and shit like that. But I feel like it would. I feel like it would make more sense, just again, the way my brain works, to be booking directly with the venues rather than with a middleman to the venue. But that middleman handles all the advertisement and the promotion.
It's really about who wants to take the risk, right? Because when you're making a guarantee on on something, say you want Chicano Batman. Chicano Batman's coming, and I think that my team and me, we can sell 1,000 tickets. So I'm going to tell Chicano Batman that we can offer them a guarantee of whatever the ticket price is times 1,000 tickets versus a percentage of sales. And we can give them this hospitality and we can give them this kind of like extra things, like a hotel room or whatever, and you're making your pitch to the booking agent. But you're not the only one, right? There's often like multiple production entities who are all pitching for Chicano Batman, for example. Everybody is going like, well, we'll pay Chicano Batman $4,000 and we'll pay them $5,000, right? And so the booking agents are looking at the offers that they get from all of these different producers, promoters in town, and then they're picking which one they want to do. And sometimes it's the highest bidder, right? But sometimes it's like somebody who you've worked with often, who you know can like promote your show really well. Or sometimes it's like, oh, the band likes this venue more than they like this venue because their green room is nicer, right? And so there's all kinds of like different variables that go into like working those deals out. But I think that a lot of times it's it's a producer's game.
And do you think that, and I do have a reason for asking this, do you think that for these acts that are coming through, they would rather take a smaller venue they know they can sell out as opposed to a bigger venue where they might get paid a little more?
It depends on the agent. It's like it's really like sometimes we run into bands who are like, no, we want to have a sold out tour. Like that's a thing that like this band is really has a lot of hype behind him right now, and we want to be able to like finish this tour and say that we sold out every venue, so that we could sell that when we try to promote their next tour, basically.
Right. Okay. So the reason I asked that is because when Slipknot comes through, they always go to Isleta. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. One of the biggest metalcore bands probably that will ever exist, regardless of what happens on their inner workings and how many band members get that leave of their own volition. But no matter what happens on the inner workings of that band, Slipknot, the brand, will always be one of the biggest metalcore bands to ever exist. And I would say out of all of Slipknot's either casual to hardcore fans, 80% of them know that Corey Taylor is the lead singer of Slipknot. That's just a thing that people know. I thought it was interesting to me that when Slipknot comes in, they go to Isleta, but when Corey Taylor came to town, just as Corey Taylor, Revel. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that kind of made what you're just explaining to me now. I wonder if it just made more sense to go to Revel, get the guarantee, get the percentage of the ticket sales, and know that, and he didn't end up selling out, but I know that he could come closer to selling out that than maybe a Sleta.
Yeah.
Or maybe
it's also your expenses too. Like how many people does it take to run Revel versus how many people does it take to run Isleta?
True.
Right. The expenses of running a show at Isleta are going to be way higher than they are Revel, and Revel's going to be higher than Sunshine or bigger than El Rey, and El Rey's bigger than Sunshine, and so forth. Right. How many security guys do you need to hire? How many stagehands do you need to hire? What's the all those costs get factored into it too, where you're like, yeah, we could sell 15,000 tickets at Isleta, but realistically, are we going to sell like maybe 3,000? Because if we are only going to sell 3,000, we should probably just do this over here. So it's just a numbers game, and it's like, okay. I mean, sometimes it's an ego game, right? Sometimes it's like ego, we want to sell out our entire tour, and sometimes it's number, and sometimes it's just availability too. Like Living Color probably should have been in a bigger venue, right?
That's why I was so shocked, and why also I was so sad I missed things. I would love to see him at an intimate venue like Launchpad.
Yeah. Well, I love that too. Those are my favorite shows. I love Launchpad shows more than either the theater shows or the Revel shows. It's just very I like being in a small club with a band where you really feel like you're like sharing the same air, oh, let's share some air tonight, brother. It's really nice. But there's something going on at Sunshine that night. There was a packed show at Sunshine that night. And so we couldn't put Living Color over there. So we were and it was kind of a last minute booking thing. So we were like, okay, let's do Launchpad. Let's see how it goes. And it was better, right? I feel like more people came, I think, for the Launchpad show because they knew it would be an intimate show than would have probably come had we put it over at the Sunshine Theater.
Interesting. Yeah, there was obviously there's a bit of novelty for that, seeing that on the flyer, but that's a good point. Okay, so now let's bring in the local bands into it and again, I look at this, again, novice perspective, but I look at this through the lens of stand up. And this is what might be one of the biggest differences when it comes like the behind the scenes, like administration side of things, where, so right now we have Dry Heat. And then now, of course, we have Quesadas up in
Quesadas.
Yeah, up in
Buffalo Thunder?
No, Santa Ana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Santa Ana.
Oh, okay. That's closer than I thought.
Yeah, and then now, in theory, we're getting Hyenas in the summer.
Oh, Hyenas. What's that? Where's that?
It's going to be up in Uptown.
Okay.
Yeah. So with these newer clubs opening, acts are coming in. Like they had the whole big tryout night for all the veteran comics in town at Quesadas to pick out who's going to be like who could be a feature, who could be an opener, who could be a host, that type of stuff, right? So when all that's coming in, it's like, okay, as a comedian, you're looking at that and you're like, okay, with these more clubs happening, more opportunities are going to come. I could have like an opening set, like any Letterman's coming into town. And one of my friends, A. Marie, who has booked me on my opening shows, she is featuring for any Letterman. So I was like, at Quesadas, I was like, okay, awesome. Like she now has that opportunity. And then a lot of other people have gone and opened for like Shane Torres and Chris Kattan and shit like that, right? Okay, awesome. So that mindset, transplanting it to the music industry, is that a reasonable or otherwise feasible thing to where it's like, okay, let's say you've got somebody, I'm trying to think of like a popular to mid, like, I don't know, Mayday Parade or what's another one, I guess. Some photos aren't touring anymore and they're pretty big. Sleeping with Sirens or like Bless the Fall. They were just at Sunshine last year. So let's say they're coming through and you've got like a bigger local band. Does that lend itself to an opportunity for a local band, or is it a lot more dicey because you're dealing with all these other like production companies and booking agents and stuff like that? Like where does it come from an awesome concept to like, okay, pin to pad, this might not work out as easy as you think it does?
Yeah, it's the latter. It doesn't. It like, it's most of the shows that are cool, that are really like the shows that all the bands are excited about and want to be on and want to open for. Those shows usually go no locals, no like
no
it sucks.
Shit.
It fucking sucks. It fucking sucks. But most of the time, those booking agents will just tell us straight off from the beginning, no locals. And it's because like there's, okay, the behind the curtains aspect of it, right? So there's a booking agency and the booking agency has a roster of bands signed up for their booking agency. And they're making money off of these bands for when they book them these tours. They get a certain percentage from every single show that the band plays on tour. So the better that the bands do on tour, the more money the booking agents do. So when they have a big show like Sleeping with Sirens or like Sleater Kinney or like, you know, a big theater show kind of thing, they want to put one of their other agency bands as the opening band so that they can build up the rest of their roster. Right? And so,
which again makes sense. It's a business.
It's a business.
That makes
right?
perfect sense.
So for them, it makes more sense to put like touring support on with the show. And so they'll have 2 or 3 smaller bands that are also part of their roster doing the support for the whole run of dates.
Makes perfect sense.
So that next time when they have to book that smaller band and they go to book a tour for that band, they can go, well, last time they came through, they played at the Sunshine Theater. So clearly you have to book them at the Launchpad now. Even though they might be like a Moonlight level band, they've been built up now because they have like the credentials from doing a whole tour, doing these theater shows, right? And that's like, unfortunately, the game. And like,
I mean, so here's where I see the alternative, and I don't see it as a better alternative. It just is the alternative, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Let's say you have a rogue booking agency, and they're like, you know what? In these next 5 Southwest cities, let your locals have at it. I'm going to leave it up again. Rogue fucking agency.
But there are those.
I'm going to let you guys, whoever, let's say it's Launchpad, right? I'm going to let you guys book whoever you'd like. Okay, great. So then you guys go and let's say you book a local band and they just fucking bomb. How does would that affect the booking agency at all? Does that affect the band on the tour at all? Are they afraid of like a local band bombing? Like what?
At the end of the day, the only thing that they're seeing
The tickets.
is the ticket sales.
Okay.
At the end of the day, when we send like final reports, like we'll throw in comments and be like, the show was great. Audience had a wonderful time. Thanks for sending us this show and letting us book the show at Launchpad, blah, blah, blah. Right? But really the only thing they're looking at is how many people paid in advance, how many people paid walk up, what's the total payout. Like that's what they're looking at, right? Which it just breaks it down into such a like heartless,
but you have to.
But
because money doesn't have emotions.
Yeah, exactly. John Taffer would say it doesn't matter. So that's the way the booking agents are looking at it, right? And so like that's why a lot of times the shows that we can add locals on are shows that are like bands that are like past their prime. Still great bands, wonderful bands, but they're not on the up and up. They're just like kind of continuing a tour, and we can be like, hey, do you guys want to open for Alien Ant Farm?
Holy shit.
That's too real.
Which funny enough, is a band where their most famous song is a cover. Just saying. And then, because one that comes to mind where a local band got added on was Inhuman Hands opening for Fear Factory over at Sunshine. Mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty cool. That they were just able to get that gig.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
And they did a great job. I was there for that. I think they did a great job.
It's great, but also like it falls into that category. Fear Factory is they're on the downward trajectory.
Yeah.
Like any band that's like cool and hip and new that most local bands would be like, I want to be on the opening spot for that show. Their agents just shut it down. For the most part. Every now like sometimes what'll happen behind the scenes is that like, the agents check in and go every week and go like, what are ticket sales at? And we go, ticket sales are this. And they go, I wish they'd be higher. And we'd be like, we wish they would too. Maybe if we added a local band, they could be. And they'll go, we'll think about it.
I was going to say, so that was my next question. So at what point, let's say there was like a window of opportunity, like the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes for a local band to show up, right? What do those conversations look like where it's like, yeah, ticket sales aren't the greatest right now, but we do know that these local guys, they could at least pull 25, 50 people.
Mm-hmm. That's basically what the conversations look like. It's just a straight up like as it gets closer, but it's a catch-22, right? Because and we try to explain this to these agents, right? And we try and tell them like, hey man, like let us book the good local bands now because we can get good local bands. But if you wait until the week before the show and go, oh my God, ticket sales aren't good on this, get us a good local band to open. I'm like, oh, cool. Let me get 6 dudes to clear their schedule next week.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. And so then you're stuck with what you can get. Right. And
if you even want to at that point. But then it's also like, well, we need ticket sales. And then it's all a big gamble, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, dude. Booking is gambling. It's fucking crazy because that's all you're doing. All you're doing is like I go to work and it's like horse racing is what it is. So I go to work and I get emails from these different agents and these agents are like, hey, here's such and such band. They're doing really good in these cities, and this is their listens on Spotify, and here's their Instagram. You should book them. And then I have to like check it out and go, okay, I like this band. I want to book this band. And yeah, okay, we've got the date. Let's do it. And then they come back and go, well, how much are you willing to offer? What do you think they're worth? And then I have to go, I don't know. What are your other offers coming in at?
Right. What's the going rate for you guys?
What's the going rate for you guys? And they're like, well, we're doing tickets at $20. That's not what I fucking asked. Goddamn. Okay. How much are they making in Oklahoma City? Because it's comparable city size to Albuquerque, right? How much are they making in Tucson?
Right.
And so it's all this like back and forth where you're trying to like, I'm doing math being like, well, I think if I can have locals on this show, I can sell 80 tickets. How much does that equal? I can offer this, right? Because if I like when you offer a guarantee, you're signing a contract and saying like, you guys get $1,000 if it fucking snows in Albuquerque and everybody stays home. I'm still writing a check for $1,000.
Right. And the venue just has to take a loss on that.
Yeah, the venue just takes a loss on that, right? Which is not good.
No,
for the venue. You know,
general,
we're a business.
it's never good. Right, yeah.
We're a business. We got to stay open. We got to gotta pay people and all that shit. So, yeah, it's a lot like horse racing, and you are just kind of like, but. You know, just like horse racing, you can research the horses and be like, okay, hold on, okay.
You had a broken leg back in yeah.
Oh, these guys came through last year and they played at this house venue. And I heard the show did really well. I think they might have a good crowd here. Let's do it.